Hey y'all, Bill Cork with Shoot GTR today to do your Rangemaster Minute. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a bit longer than a minute because we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to go into one of the hot topics politically right now, which is open carry. So as most of you probably know, several weeks ago, there was a First District Court of Appeal ruling that came out that determined that the Florida prohibition on open carry was in fact constitutional. So that moving forward is going to be the law of the land. But there's some things we need to talk about when it comes to open carry. So first of all, just to get it out of the way, my opinion about open carry, how I feel about it, is it's not a question of being legal or illegal. It's part of your natural right to self-defense. It's part of the rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. However, having said that, with rights come responsibilities. And just because you can do something does not necessarily mean that you should do that thing. And when it comes to open carry, there are some considerations we need to talk about to make sure that you're thinking about, what potential minefields you might be walking through if you decide to open carry. Now, right off the bat, if you're someplace where it's contextually appropriate, you're hunting, you're fishing, you're hiking, okay, that's one thing. Although the caveats I'm going to give you are still going to apply. But mostly what I'm talking about is utilizing open carry as a general way of life. So some considerations here. Number one, tactically, your biggest advantage with concealed carry is that the gun is your secret and no one should know that you've got it until it becomes appropriate, necessary for you to let them know that you have it. It's not something that you want to advertise. When you are carrying in an open capacity, obviously, potentially everybody's going to know that you've got this weapon on. So you're giving away your secrets. And the issues we run into is the three of them. Most people are not equipped to properly open carry, meaning they don't have the right kind of holster. They're using their ordinary concealed carry holster, an open top, no retention type of job. And that's not going to give you the best performance. That's not setting yourself up for success, one of my favorite expressions. So something that's got some sort of active retention, you can see the hood up here when I press that, a little bit more security in case I do let my guard down and someone tries to take my weapon. Law enforcement officers, especially patrol officers, their duty holsters are security holsters. They have at least level 2, if not level 3 retention to give them some cushion in the case of a gun grab. That gets us to our second point, training. Most people are not adequately trained to open carry. They don't have any sort of skill set when it comes to defeating a gun grab. And because people know that you've got the gun, you've exposed the gun to that scrutiny. It is possible for a criminal actor, if you're not paying attention, to try and take that weapon from you. So you definitely want to consider getting some training in weapon retention. And again, that's something that's a standard part of law enforcement training, is giving them some degree of training when it comes to weapon retention. Finally, most importantly, I've talked about situational awareness in the past, and situational awareness is critical. If you're not carrying a gun, it's critical if you're carrying concealed. It's even more critical if you are open carrying, if you are giving away and telegraphing to the world that you've got the weapon on. Most people are not prepared mentally to bear that constant burden of perpetual situational awareness. You've got to have your head in a swivel. You cannot let your guard down. You can't be on your phone. You can't be daydreaming. You've got to pay attention, because since you've got that obvious thing sticking out there, it kind of goes into one of my favorite expressions that I've used before. If you look like food, you will be eaten. And in that case, you're giving away your secrets. So from a tactical perspective, some things you need to think about: being properly equipped, being properly trained, and you've got to have that good situational awareness. Some other considerations. Political. No one likes when someone tries to shove an opposing point of view down your throat. It gets uncomfortable, and in today's day and age, you can probably think of several different examples where someone from a different viewpoint is trying to force their opinions onto you. Well, people don't like when I say this, but the reality is folks have a right to not like guns. And as long as you're not trying to take away my right to my guns, I'm going to defend your right to not like guns. I just don't think that open carry is the best way for us to win hearts and minds. People can be afraid of firearms, especially if they don't understand them. And if you're walking around with your weapon exposed, that is going to make some people uncomfortable. And that kind of gets me to my last point about this, some legal considerations. So just because this is now the law of the land, and I think correctly so, because this is part of your natural right, it is the law of the land, but there are still restrictions. Just like with concealed carry, there are places that you cannot go with your firearm, concealed or open. Police departments, sheriff's offices, jails, courthouses, polling places when the polls are in session, schools, different things like that. Private property. So private property owners have the ability to limit who comes onto their property with what. And they can put signs up. Now in Florida, those signs, generally speaking, do not hold the force of law. So if you see a piece of property with a sign that says no firearms, concealed, open, whatever, it doesn't necessarily hold the force of law. But if the property owner or a representative thereof discovers that you're carrying the weapon, and if it's open carried, it's going to be pretty obvious, they can direct you to leave. They have that ability to ask you to leave their property. And if you refuse, if you start arguing, if you start trying to debate, well, this is my right, things of that nature, you've now been told to leave by a representative with the authority to do so, so you are now trespassing, and because you're armed, it is armed trespassing, which is a felony. So that can get you into a lot of trouble. There's some other statutes that may come into play. If you're handling the gun, if you've got the gun, you're holding on to it, that can get into reckless display, brandishing, things of that nature. So be mindful about this. And I'm discouraging my students from regularly engaging in open carry because, like I said, first and foremost, you're giving away your secrets, and that's your secret to keep. So these are things to think about. One last thing with that, especially in this area, in the Gainesville area, because of the climate we've got here, the culture that we have here. And it's not a negative thing, it's just a statement of reality. I expect that until people get used to this idea of seeing people openly carrying for the next several months, there's a good chance that if you are out walking around, somebody may call law enforcement. Somebody may call the police and go, hey, there's a guy with a gun here, because either they don't know that it's now legal or it just makes them uncomfortable. Please, when law enforcement shows up, keep your ego in check. Take a deep breath. Recognize the law enforcement is there to do their job. They're not trying to infringe on your rights. They're not trying to do anything of that nature. They're there because they were called, and they have an obligation, a due diligence to come and make sure that everything is okay. So please try to keep your ego in check. Take a deep breath. Speak to them. If you've got nothing, if you're not doing anything wrong and everything's fine, you're gonna be okay. So don't turn a nothing situation into something bad. That's already happened in the past 3 weeks in Florida, where a law enforcement was notified about a person open carrying, and that ended up with deadly force. So please do not let that happen to you. So now we're going to segue over to how this is going to impact the rules and procedures and policies for Shoot GTR. So since we opened, Shoot GTR has allowed lawful concealed carry of holstered handguns, and that is still going to be our rule. We are going to expand that to allow the lawful open carry of holstered handguns. So when you're on property, when you're moving between ranges and whatnot, that is going to be fine. You can come into the Proshop. This is also going to apply, not the range portion obviously, but the shop to Lawful Defense, our sister store. We're going to allow open carry, lawful open carry of holstered handguns. A couple of things about that. So first of all, we do not want rifles and shotguns, long guns, openly carried. We want those unloaded and securely encased, the same way the rule used to be. So I don't want you to have your long gun slung on your shoulder when you're walking around. I want that unloaded and securely encased. Second thing, ranges 1, 2, or 3, our front general member bays. The rule has been that there is no holster work allowed on ranges 1, 2, or 3. That is still the case. Even with open carry, though you've got the gun exposed in a holster, you are not allowed to do any holster work on range 1, 2, or 3. The policy we had in place for concealed carry was that if you wanted to shoot your concealed holstered handgun, you had to step to the red safety table, draw the gun, unload, box it up, step back to the firing line. When the firing line's hot, you can unbox, load, shoot. When you get done, box it back up, step back over to the safety table rather, unbox it, reload, holster up. So there's no holster work on the firing line. All that takes place over at the safety table. That's erring on the side of caution because of the wide range of experience levels and skill levels we have on range 1, 2, or 3. Same thing is going to apply for open carry. Same protocol. If you want to shoot your openly carried holstered handgun, step to the red safety table, draw, unload, box it up, come back to the firing line. When it's hot, you can unbox, load, shoot, unload, rebox, head back to the safety table, unbox it, load, holster up. No holster work on the firing line on range 1, 2, or 3. We're going to adjust appropriately the rules for the back ranges, the private bays, as well as range 8 or steel range. And you'll get all that information if and when you go through Pro. If you have any questions about that, either ask me or ask in the Pro Shop. Speaking of the Pro Shop, and this applies to lawful defense as well. So while open carry of holstered handguns is allowed, no long guns, nothing slung that has to be unloaded and boxed up, or bagged up, as the case may be. But I want to emphasize this: do not handle any firearm in the Pro Shop or over at Lawful Defense without staff authorization and subsequent guidance. So do not walk in, and I don't care if it's concealed, I don't care if it's openly carried or if it's bagged or boxed up, whatever. I don't want anyone to walk in and just start to produce a firearm. Legitimate question on your part: hey, I need a magazine for this, I need sights for this, whatever the case may be. Ask staff first so that they know what you're about to do. Because what we don't want is for someone to walk in and draw a firearm, speaking specifically about holstered stuff, and maybe somebody else in the shop isn't part of the conversation, doesn't know what you're doing, and those things across the country, there have been examples where that has turned very bad. So do not handle any firearm in the Pro Shop or over at Lawful Defense without staff approval and subsequent guidance. So that covers both some general considerations about open carry, as well as the specific policies and protocols that we're going to implement moving forward at Shoot GTR and Lawful Defense. As always, if you have any questions at all, reach out to me personally, contact somebody in the shop, leave a comment for us below, give us a share, give us a like, and as always, y'all stay safe.